A court overturns the federal mask mandate. Florida rejects math textbooks. And Democrats speak out against Biden's immigration policy. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Matt Gnezda, filling in for Chris Chappell. So, good news if you like to travel. The CDC has removed every country from its Do Not Travel COVID advisory list. During the pandemic, the CDC rated countries from levels 1 to 4 in terms of COVID risk, with 4 being the most dangerous. They just overhauled that rating system due to the lower risk Americans now face of serious COVID illness. Level 4 is now being reserved for special cases. Most countries are currently at level 3, which is still high risk, but also still okay to travel to. High risk is considered 100 cases out of every 100,000 people. So they consider 1 out of 1,000 odds a high risk. That's like saying, whenever I play poker, I have a high risk of getting a winning hand. Looks like I'm going to Vegas. Daddy's feeling risky. And when I travel there, I won't have to wear a mask because a federal judge in Florida overturned the federal mask mandate for public travel. The CDC had just extended the mask mandate last week. But according to this judge in her latest ruling, the CDC and the Biden administration overstepped their authority. Because our system does not permit agencies to act unlawfully, even in pursuit of desirable ends, the court declares this unlawful and vacates the mask mandate. Wait, agencies aren't allowed to act unlawfully in the pursuit of desirable ends? Does this mean we can finally overturn the Patriot Act? I'm tired of feeling like I have to hide my activity anytime I browse the web when I, want to buy a gift for my wife and keep it a surprise. As a result of this ruling, the Biden administration will no longer enforce the travel mask mandate. Although the Biden administration is appealing the ruling, after the CDC said it thought the mandate was still necessary for public health. This ruling created a lot of confusion as it left the decision to mask or not mask to transit providers, meaning there are now different rules depending on where you go. That's right, different COVID rules in every state, county, and city where you go, with no rhyme, reason, or consistency between them. Gee, that's just like how it's been for the entire pandemic. Now, several airlines announced that masks would now be optional on their flights, but warned customers there may be some initial confusion over that. Airlines no longer requiring masks include American, JetBlue, Delta, Southwest, and United. Meanwhile, Spirit Airlines announced they would start charging passengers if they want to wear masks. They will also charge you if you decide not to wear a mask. Why? Because shut up, that's why, which happens to be the official motto of Spirit Airlines. Besides airlines, Uber announced they were rescinding their mask requirement for drivers and passengers, making them optional. Remember, many people still feel safer wearing a mask because of personal or family health situations, so please be respectful of their preferences. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, you can always cancel the trip. Wait, I can cancel a trip if the driver makes me feel uncomfortable? Then instead of a mask, can I request my driver wear a muzzle? I don't want to hear about your all-white reggae band, Kyle. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki expressed regret at this mask mandate ruling, saying the CDC recommended continuing the order for additional time, 2 weeks, to be able to assess the latest science, in keeping with its responsibility to protect the American people. So this is obviously a disappointing decision. The fact the White House thinks not having to wear a mask on a plane anymore is disappointing shows just how out of touch they are with the average American. No one enjoys wearing the mask, and the TSA didn't even like enforcing it. I've been traveling lately and I overheard a TSA agent say, they don't do anything, they're just there to make people feel safe. Although I couldn't tell if he was talking about masks or the TSA. And the mask mandate wasn't the only thing rejected in Florida this week. After the break, math books are too. Welcome back. Florida rejected 54 out of 132 submitted math textbooks for containing what the Commissioner of Education claimed to be inappropriate material, including Common Core learning concepts and critical race theory. Common Core is a set of standards for teaching in K-12 schools. It was implemented in 2010, but eliminated from Florida schools in 2020. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said, "It seems that some publishers attempted to slap a coat of paint on an old house built on the foundation of Common Core and indoctrinating concepts like race essentialism, especially bizarrely for elementary school students." Essentially, DeSantis was saying these math textbooks were too woke. What does a woke math problem even sound like? If Jamal has 6 apples and Billy takes 2, then how many apples does Jamal have left after being a victim of this flagrant act of systemic oppression? Actually, that's not too far off because the Florida Department of Education just released a few examples of the rejected math textbooks. And one of them was teaching students how to use algebra to calculate their own racial bias based on the implicit association test. Math is now part of the culture war, which sadly isn't anything new since some people have been saying for years that math is racist, with some going as far as to argue that trying to find the right answer promotes white supremacy. And it's hard to argue that math isn't racist. As I've said before, it literally teaches division. What next? Are some groups going to claim algebra is problematic because instead of trying to figure out what X is, we should let X identify however it wants? As the culture war in education continues, narratives and anti-narratives are being pushed in schools and the students are stuck in the crossfire, which must be stressful. And that might be why a Michigan kindergartner brought a bottle of tequila to school to share with her classmates. You know narratives being pushed on children are getting bad when instead of wanting to spend recess playing kickball, kids would rather down a Mike's Hard Capri Sun or some gin and juicy juice. While everyone might focus on the negative of this story, 5-year-olds drinking tequila, I choose to focus on the positive, that the student wanted to share with her classmates. That's real equity in the classroom. Speaking of things making kids sick, the FDA is investigating thousands of reports that Lucky Charms cereal has been making people sick since late last year. There hasn't been an official explanation as to what might be causing this wave of illnesses, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's because kids are eating Lucky Charms for breakfast. Speaking of shady companies, Johnson & Johnson. The drug company settled a lawsuit with the state of West Virginia that claimed they helped fuel an opioid addiction epidemic. J&J paid $99 million in the settlement. And it's not the first time. In the recent past, they've settled similar lawsuits in New Mexico for $44 million, Montana for $80 million, and Texas for $290 million. That's just to name a few. And although Johnson & Johnson settled, they didn't admit fault or any wrongdoing in these cases. They essentially just paid up to make the lawsuits go away. Of course, it doesn't make them look very innocent since the main reason they can afford to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to settle opioid lawsuits is because they made billions selling so many opioids. This would be like trying to prove you're not responsible for a car accident by paying people off with all the money you made from drag racing. It also doesn't make me think you're going to stop anytime soon. And after the break, the Brooklyn Public Library is offering banned books to teens. Welcome back. The Brooklyn Public Library started a program allowing anyone in the country ages 13 to 21 to apply for a free e-card and will give them access to several books banned in schools in various states. This is a great idea. Now all they have to do is figure out how to get teenagers to actually read books. TikTok can't even hold teens' attention for 10-minute videos, and teens love TikTok. The only controversial content that's informational, educational, and often suppressed that teens are interested in these days is America Uncovered. I think. Leave a comment below if you're a teenager and watching this, and you can't wait to have Chris back, because who's this guy? Now, Russia has begun focusing its military forces on capturing the Donbas region of eastern Ukraine, which has been partially controlled by pro-Russian separatist forces since 2014. This was expected. Last week, the U.S. announced it was sending an additional $800 million in aid to help Ukraine in the assault on the Donbas region. This, along with all the aid other Western countries have been sending to Ukraine, upset Russia, who accused the West of delaying the end of this war. According to the Russian defense minister, increasing volumes of foreign arms deliveries clearly demonstrate their intentions to provoke the Kiev regime to fight to the last Ukrainian. They're basically saying, We would have already won if you didn't make it a fair fight. That's like me saying, I would have totally beaten that dude in a boxing match if he wasn't given proper nutrition and training, and if everyone didn't prevent me from using nukes and chemical weapons. Speaking of an ongoing humanitarian crisis, America's southern border. 10 Democrats have joined Republicans in speaking out against President Biden's decision to end Title 42. That's a Trump administration border policy that expedites deportations and prevents migrants from seeking asylum due to the COVID pandemic. Democratic Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona said, "Right now, we have a crisis on our southern border. Right now, this administration does not have a plan. I warned them about this months ago. It's going to be honest, it's going to be a crisis on top of a crisis." That might as well be the motto of the Biden administration. Yo, dog, I heard you like crises, so I put a crisis on top of a crisis. A nearly 20-year-old meme? Yep, I told you teens love us. So, what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Leave your comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly by viewers. Be sure to visit patreon.com/America Uncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making episodes like this. Or join our exclusive social media community on Locals. Check out americauncovered.locals.com. Links are below. Once again, I'm Matt Ganejda. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.